All right, folks, I've said it once before and I'll say it again. We live in the future. There is some crazy technology going on these days that is just awesome. Bad side of that is, if you've ever seen Black Mirrors, all this technology could go terribly, terribly awry. Have you ever seen the episode with the little drone bees and the just disturbing? Because of this technology, we have cool stuff like the little thing we're talking about today, the new MAVIC Air drone. So like I said today, folks, we're going to be talking about the new drone DJI just put out, the MAVIC Air. I'm going to try to keep this brief. Wink, wink. If you ever watch my videos, you know I'm completely lying when I say that. Just bald-faced lie. It's not going to be brief. I'm going to try to hit the big reasons why this is the first drone since the Phantom 4 that got me to open up the old wallet. So when you're talking about the MAVIC Air, one of the first things you're gonna have to talk about is the size. And that's one of the main things that kind of brought me in. I mean, it's like the size of my hand. It's tiny. You know, it's like the size of a phone. And I heard somebody say it's not the size of the phone. Well, you know, whatever. Look, that's an iPhone 10. And it's, I mean, that much taller. Now, I mean, obviously the thickness is totally different. It's basically the footprint of an iPhone 10. Another comparison, my old Phantom 4 battery. I mean, barely bigger than the battery on my Phantom 4, just the battery. The size of this thing was the first thing that made me pull the trigger. I love my Phantom 4, but it's huge and it's cumbersome to carry around, and you've got to carry this huge like case with you everywhere you go. And it's kind of like when I talked about the gimbal review that I did back I think about a week or two ago. If you haven't seen that, little note over here, go check that video out. The best piece of gear is the piece of gear you have with you, and there's many times I did not have my Phantom 4 with me because it was difficult to carry around. This little guy you can throw in your bag and carry it with you anywhere. Not just the size, but it has a really, really well thought out design. The way it folds up makes it super compact. It's got these cool little fold down legs that fold up that actually, from what I understand, function as antenna, and it's also your landing gear. They redesigned the gimbal cover, which I always kind of hated on the Phantom 4. That was kind of a pain in the butt to get on and off, and from what I understand, people who have the MAVIC Pro, they really hated theirs because it was a two-piece design. Also, another design feature about this that I thought was really cool is the fact that the gimbal is basically concealed within the body, so it's a little more protected. One of the things about the MAVIC Pro that I always thought was a little weird is that gimbal really just seemed kind of flappy and hung around down there and really seemed to be exposed if you were to run into something. It also comes with this posh little case. Really nice. It's like this nice gray denim-y looking kind of stuff. Feels nice. It's formed to fit the drone. I feel like it protects it pretty good. I've heard some people kind of piss and moan a little bit about the fact that all you could fit is the drone in here, but I actually like that. To me, that's a good thing, because if it was big enough to hold the drone and the controller and the battery and some stuff like that, the case would be a little bit bigger and bulkier. It's easier to put a couple small things into something than when you put them together, it makes it bigger and bulkier. It has this little stretchy deal on the back. You can stretch this out and put your remote control in the back of it if you wanted to, but I prefer when I put it in my camera bag, these fit individually in slots very nicely. Another thing that a lot of you guys that have had other drones may have been appreciating for years now is just a darker color. It's so much easier to see up in the sky when I'm trying to keep an eye on the drone. Phantom is stark white, so I would lose it constantly up there. So digging a little bit into the tech side. They did beef up these sensors on this one. It has 2 rear sensors. It also has 2 bottom sensors, and it has 2 front sensors. So it actually kind of looks like a little face on the front. This is the first DJI drone that, other than the sides, has sensors all the way around, which allows it to create this 3D map, and it has this new software called APAS, which is Advanced Pilot Assistance System. That's what it stands for. The cool thing about that is all the other drones would keep you from hitting stuff by just stopping before you get to it. This one, with APAS is turned on, which by the way, you do have to turn it on. It's a little button you have to click. Don't forget to do that. I didn't do it at first and couldn't figure out what was wrong, but it's a little button. As it's flying towards something, rather than it just stopping short of running into something, it is able to go smoothly around the obstacle. Now, the one caveat to that is I have noticed if the object that you're going around is too big, if you have like a 12-foot wall and you're flying at 6 foot high, it's not gonna be able to read and go 6 foot up to go over that 12-foot wall. But if it is a reasonably sized obstacle that it can sense that it could get around, it will maneuver around obstacles. Like I used it at the beach, I flew towards some rocks and it just went right up and over the rocks. Kept going, got a nice smooth shot out of it, which was really nice. This does have a 3-axis just like the Phantoms and the Mavic Pros and all that stuff. One of the first days I took this thing out, I went to the beach and it was extremely windy, and you would think with the small size of this thing it would be getting blown around, but the stability of this thing mixed with that 3-axis gimbal, even in high winds, the footage looks just smooth as butter. Now, getting into the camera on this guy, one of the other huge reasons why I pulled the trigger on this. It shoots 4K 30, 4K 24 frames, which I always generally shoot in 24 frames instead of 30. 30 is one of those things that kind of makes me feel a little weird inside. I don't know what it is. So I usually film in 24. It also does 1080 at 120. So if you want to get some of that cool cinematic slow motion of some action shots, or if you're doing it for sports kind of things and somebody's doing a trick on a skateboard or a snowboard, whatever the case may be, you can get that really cool smooth slow motion with that 120. Another thing they beefed up big time is this thing records its 4K at 100 megabytes per second, which is way more than the previous drones. That's gonna help your color grading out a lot. It has a lot more information in that footage and allows for a lot clearer image, a little crisper, and generally a lot more latitude in post. This does have a fixed focus. There is no focusing, which I personally think is a good thing. I heard some people say that they don't like the fact that it doesn't have the focus. They enjoyed the shallow depth of field kind of thing you could get with a Mavic. But from everybody I know that personally had a Mavic, they hated it, because if you forgot to tap to focus on something, then sometimes you would ruin a shot because you would just get a bunch of blurry crap. It's got HDR photo in it. It's got the AEB. This thing can also take spherical panoramas in like 81 by 92 by 4096 resolution. 4096, I was right, look at that. Which is really awesome. The spherical photos on this thing look cool. It does 180 panoramas. Really cool stuff. Now, this seems like a small thing, but it's huge. It's got 8 gigabytes of internal storage. Even in my testing, when I took this drone out to get some footage for this video, one of the times I went out, I forgot a memory card. Now, many times I have done this with my Phantom, I would have been screwed. In this particular situation, it was golden hour, it was sunset, so I would have missed my opportunity, because by the time I would have gotten back, got my memory card, got back out there, the sun would have set and I would have lost it. But because this guy's got 8 gigabytes of internal storage, you can still get your shots. Now, 8 gigabytes is a little limited, but it is enough to get the shots that you need to get. It also just adds more. So if you have a 16 gigabyte card, you also have 8 more on board. That's a huge benefit of this drone. It's already come in handy for me, and going forward, all drones should have some kind of internal storage. They've also added some additional quick shot modes in this guy. It's got the, I'm sure you've seen pictures of it already. Everybody's posting them. It's really neat. I'm sure it's gonna get like really overdone and everybody's gonna be over it eventually, but for right now, it's really cool. This asteroid mode. It basically does a droney where it flies backwards away from you up into the sky, and then once it's up there, it takes a bunch of pictures and gets a 360 panoramic kind of photo, stitches it together, in the internal software and makes like this little planet kind of thing that you've seen. There's also one called Boomerang, which really does this kind of cool cinematic thing where it starts out in front of you, it sweeps away in a boomerang kind of motion and comes back around, and it really gives you kind of a cool sweeping cinematic view of your surroundings. That would be very hard to do if you were having to navigate the drone yourself. I tell you what, in a pinch, it sure is nice when you're trying to get a shot real quick just to be able to hit one of those quick shot modes and that drone does its own thing. Not to mention you can put the remote down, so if you want to be in the shot, you're not in the shot holding a remote looking like a goofball operating your drone. You can be doing whatever you need to be doing and the drone's just taking a shot of you instead of you sitting there. It's also got all the other quick shot modes that they have on the other ones. It's got the helix and the circle and all that stuff. One of the things that kind of surprised me, because when I heard about it on the Spark, the hand gesture, what they call smart capture, was a little bit of a gimmicky thing and didn't work great. So that wasn't something that I was looking forward to, and that wasn't really a buying point for me with this one. But I tell you what, after my testing, I really kind of like it. They've greatly improved it on this one, so it works a hell of a lot better, and it's actually kind of fun to do. You can be like a Jedi out there using the Force, just whipping. These are not the drones you're looking for. Well, I guess it is the drone you're looking for because it's your drone. But anyway, it's really pretty cool. You take your hands, you move them apart, it moves back, you move them closer together, it moves towards you, hands up, it goes up, down. It basically just follows your hand around. But I tell you what's cool about it is, as far as for the following, once it's tracked onto you, if you start walking toward it, it backs up. So if you wanted to get like a cool little cinematic shot of you walking along or doing a jog or doing whatever, without the remote, you can just raise it up to the height you want, start running, start walking, and it's going to track backwards. And because of that rear facing sensor, you don't have to worry about it running into anything, and it'll just get a nice little quick shot. Now, you don't want to get too far away from the remote, so I mean, I'm not going to go on a 1 mile jog, but if you're just trying to get a cool shot for a video of you running, or you need it following behind you, really quick, easy way to get one of those shots, and it looks great. You don't have a remote in your hand, and Bob's your uncle. Overall, it was really fun, and I can definitely see where it could come in handy in certain situations. This thing's fast. I mean, it's like scary fast. When you put it in sport mode, top speed of 42.5 miles an hour. That little dude is hauling ass. It's like a mad hornet. It's just zipping around, and it's super responsive and zippy. It feels way different in the sky than my Phantom 4 did. You know, it could come in handy for like if you need to track a fast moving car, because that thing will haul butt. You can definitely track a car. Well, at least up to 42.5 miles an hour. Getting into the remote. So this remote, I love it. Coming from a Phantom 4 where the remote was the size of my head, this thing is awesome. It is tiny, it folds up, the arms fold in. Something cool new about this one, the joysticks screw out and they store inside here where it folds up. So when you go to store it, nice and flush. You don't have these joysticks poking out, taking up more room and possibly getting busted off or something. Unlike the Spark, which ran off Wi-Fi, this one does have a dedicated cable that plugs into your phone. Really pretty impressed with the feel of this remote, the design, and how compact it is. Really, really happy with it. So, getting to some of the cons on the remote. There is no screen like in the Mavic. You also only have a roller wheel for your gimbal moving up and down. There used to be one over here, at least on my Phantom, and I think on the Mavic also, for controlling your exposure, which I used all the time, and that's lacking. So that kind of bums me out a little bit, because what you have to do is you can make this a smart button that takes you right into your camera controls, click this, and then you have to adjust your exposure on the screen. Not a huge deal. It's still pretty quick and easy to do, but definitely not as easy as just rolling a little wheel. The range is reduced on this. It is a 2.5 mile range, but here's kind of my caveat with that. Pretty much anywhere in America, as far as I know, you have to keep your drone in line of sight. It is illegal to fly your drone so far away that you can't see it, from all the rules I've read. Not to mention just kind of dangerous. So, I mean, 2.5 miles is plenty far. I never got near the 4 mile marker with my Phantom. It just would sketch me out way too bad with it that far away. I will say, if I'm being honest, I do get more interference with this than I ever got with my Phantom. With my Phantom, I rarely ever got any interference unless I was really far away. This one, I noticed there does seem to be, like if you're around power lines and stuff, it'll give you warnings. I've never had any issues with losing connection where it got lost, and the DJI drones are all really good about having the return to home feature, but it has to be said, I always like to be honest with you guys, and while I think the range on this thing is good and keeping it with line of sight, I don't think you're gonna have any problems. You do experience some more disruptions with this than you would with a Mavic Pro or with a Phantom. Anytime you go a lot smaller and you get a smaller battery, you're gonna get a lower flight time. Flight time on this is 21 next to the Mavic Pro, which I believe is around 27. It is more than the Spark, which is even lower, but you know, it's kind of a trade-off. This old Phantom I had a 20-some minute flight time. 27, 26 minute flight time. You know, with the size of this battery, I can take 2 of the Mavic Air batteries for the size of one of these. So the batteries are really tiny, so just pack more in my opinion. I have 2. I would definitely recommend getting at least 2 batteries with your Mavic Air, or getting the Fly More bundle, which I think comes with 3. It does have less picture modes also. It has the D-Cine-like and the standard picture mode, which again, in my opinion, is more than enough. It does have the D-Cine-like, which is a flat enough picture profile for me to get plenty of good color grading and post, details in the shadows and whatnot. You do have some versatility there. One other thing that I will mention that I don't know why DJI did. USB-C goes in your little port back here. You cannot charge with it, but you can do your updates and you can download your internal storage and stuff like that. So USB-C, great, awesome. Now, why in the heck didn't they just go ahead and make this a USB-C where you charge your remote? It's not. It's like a mini USB bob thing. So they had to give you this little adapter, which, I mean, look, I appreciate the little adapter. This is what you charge your controller with, but here's the problem. This little damn thing is going to end up getting lost if I'm not careful. Why didn't you just make this the same as this, or just make this a USB-C? That would have been so much better, but that is kind of a bummer. And if I'm nitpicking, because this is nitpicking, because I love this drone, it's really hard to get, unless you got little teeny girl fingers. No offense, girls, but you guys usually have smaller fingers. And not even girl fingers, like 8-year-old girl fingers, because even a grown woman's fingers are going to be, I mean, it's so skinny. It's very hard to get that memory card. You got to like really get your fingernail in there to get, it's very hard. So I wish they would have made this door a little bigger, or in a different spot or something. So like I said, guys, and I know I kind of was giving justification for all the negatives, but that's because even though there are some negatives for this drone, there are no perfect drones. I really feel like this is about as close to perfect for most people as you're gonna get. I'm gonna put a quick little chart up. It's gonna have all the vital stats of your Mavic Air compared to your Mavic Pro, compared to your Spark. If you wanna see that and kind of compare the 3, just pause on this screen. I really think DJI did a bang up job with this one. I will stop talking this thing up into a big DJI love fest, but I've been very happy with this drone so far, and I do highly recommend it. So that's it for me, guys. Hopefully this was useful for you. Anytime you're dropping that kind of cheese on something, you want to make sure you're getting the right one. If I missed something that you have a question about, feel free to ask in the comments below, and as always, I will answer to the best of my ability. If it was helpful, feel free to smash that like button. If you're not a subscriber, please consider doing so. We'd love to have you on board. Click that little notification button over here. I never know which direction or where. Click the little notification button. That way you know when we upload a new video. So anyway, guys, all right, I hope everybody has a great weekend, and we will see you in the next video. It has been cloudy and rainy here, and it took me forever to get some pretty footage, because who wants to look at ugly ass drone footage? When you're doing a drone video, you gotta have some good, pretty footage, and I'm not gonna take a picture of a gray, cloudy, crap day. Look at this thing. Seriously. It's like a little stealth fighter. I mean, it's just so awesome. Just a handful of epicness. Oh, Jesus. Knocked over Negan. Don't knock over Negan. Well, Lucille, your ass.